So welcome everybody to the CLI project preview study group. We're going to be showing some of the first projects that you do after you complete the Ruby section. A variety of students who have finished this project have graciously offered to share their projects with you and answer questions. We have 7 people presenting. So the first, we're going to have one project preview, and then the student is going to show the video that you do when you present it, when you turn in your project, and then we'll go on to some other student presentations, and then we'll do a quick Q&A at the end. So for my presenters, if you can keep your presentation to about 6 or 7 minutes, that would be great. So take it away, Lana.
First, since there's a bunch of people on this call and I'm getting a lot of feedback, if you're not presenting, could you please mute? That would be awesome. Thank you. So I'm going to share my screen with you. The CLI project that we were asked to do, there were a bunch of requirements that you'll get to see when it comes around. It was part of the object orientation part of Ruby. So one of the main requirements was that they wanted us to use good object orientation in our project. They also wanted us to use a scraper, and they wanted us to scrape at least 1 level deep. And then the main focus of the project was actually the command line interface. So basically how you could use the information that you scraped and turned into objects in your command line or your terminal. So just to give you kind of an idea of who I am as a human being, I decided to scrape the Harry Potter spells list because I'm cool like that. So I scraped a bunch of information off of this main list here. The name, the URL, the type, the description, and then I went 1 level deeper and scraped some information off of this second line, this second page here, to kind of fill out an information for my spell work CLI. Just to show you kind of what my project ended up looking like. And feel free to ask any questions that you might have.
I can't play today. I got my whole thing.
Is that a question? Okay. You start up my project and you run it, and it comes up with this initial menu page, and it gives you a couple of different options of how you can search through the Harry Potter spells that were scraped while you were looking at this. And when my scraping is already done, it's already complete until you select another object, and then it scrapes for that second level of information. I did this because I knew my husband would want to look at this, and he has 0 interest in Harry Potter. So I figured I would give him the easiest way to look through it, which would be alphabetically. So you can type in a letter and, you type in, first you type in what you want to do, and then you type in a letter, and it'll come up with every spell that starts with that letter. You can type another letter if you're totally over the A's and you want to learn about the U's, whatever. If you get going and you decide you want to choose one of these that you would like to learn more about, you then type in the number, and it'll bring up just a little blurb about what that spell is in particular. You can choose another one from that list, and it'll give you information on that item. Otherwise, you can choose to go back to the, let's say you get crazy and you're really into these eyes, and you want to see that list again. You just type in list, it'll bring it back up. If you want to go back to that original menu, you can just type in menu exclamation, and it'll bring you back to that original menu that was brought up when you first logged in. So it brings you back to this menu. Then say you wanted to type you wanted to search for a certain type of spell, you're just looking for healing spells. So then you can type in the number 4 and it'll give you all the healing spells. And then you can choose one of those to learn a little bit more about. If you want to go back to this list right here, you can type in list and it'll give you that again. Should you want to go back to that original list up here of the types, you can type in the word type and it'll give you that list again, and you can choose another one. Everybody's interested in curses, right? So you can type in a number from there and it'll give you a little more information. Some of them have more information than others depending on what was scraped from the website. From there, you can go back to the original menu, and there's also a way to do a keyword search, because sometimes you kind of know what you're looking for. You want to know more about something in particular. Let's say you really are a witch or a wizard and your house is burning down and you can't remember the spell. You can type in water and it'll bring up anything that has the word water in either the name or the description. And then you can type in the number to learn a little bit more. You can type in another word and it'll give you more information. You can just continue that until you hit one that has just one. If there's just one spell, it'll just give you the information right off the bat. Otherwise, if you type in stuff that is not allowed, it'll give you a little warning. Otherwise, you can just go ahead and exit once you're all done and finished, and that's how you get out of it. Any questions? Unmute yourself if you have them. No?
So is everybody clear? Does anybody have basic questions about what the project was asking you to actually create? So Lannis is pretty complicated in that it has multiple levels of requests and ways you can go at it. But it's, yeah, so this is the basic project requirements. Thanks for sharing that, Lana.
Yeah,
but does anybody have questions about that?
I just got a question. Like, I mean, I'm in the first week of the cohort and learning, still going through like arrays and hashes and pretty basic methods and stuff. Is that what was utilized here, or how?
It was definitely utilized, but you're in arrays and hashes. Really the big component that's used is classes, which you'll get into, and you definitely use arrays and hashes in there. But we have to build out, oh Lord, different classes. You're gonna have your arrays, like, let's see, do I have a good example? Like this is an array here that's added into, you're gonna use all of that. You're gonna use your strings, you're gonna use all of the basic stuff that you use. But creating the object orientation means that you're creating classes for different, and kind of making them more complex. So it's not just an array, it's something that can perform a different task depending on what it's called upon. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, okay, thanks. I haven't gotten to classes yet, but that I can definitely see the usefulness of it.
Yeah.
Hi, Lana. This is
Hi.
Chandra. How are you?
I'm good.
Yeah, Lana, the thing is, I'm in the second week and we are just into hashes and arrays. And you're talking about, this is a web scraping project? Is it, if I'm not wrong?
We do scrape. I'm guessing this is the only one that we're required to scrape on. My scraper got out of control because that website was a bit of a mess, but it is we are required to scrape for this, yes.
Scrape, okay, because I have no idea about scrape, etc. So I've just heard about this word. And
okay. Scraping is basically you put in a URL for a website. So I give my scraper this little information up here, this HTTPS Harry Potter fandom wiki, well, not that one, I guess. but my list of spells, and it goes through and it strips out a bunch of information from that website. You'll go through it and you'll learn it. Basically, it's you go through your tools and you use the HTML on the website to get information. So you're stripping out like these words off of this page. That's what a scraper is. I hope I explained that well. If anybody else who's presenting, please feel free to jump in and clarify.
Okay.
Yeah, so for some of you newbies who are really right at the beginning, I hope this is meant to be an inspiration, not not to terrify you. There's lots of stuff you have yet to learn that is going to get you to this point. So, so don't let this freak you out, but just see what you can do by, the end of the first section.
So Mark wanted to know how long we have on this project. I'm in the full-time program. We had a week to work on it. But that's all you're working on for that week. You don't also have classes to work on. This is your job for the week, is to create this command line.
I'll jump in too, Lana. I'm one of the presenters and I am doing the part-time program. So I work full-time and I'm doing this kind of on the side. And I would say it took me about 3 weeks to a month to do. But there's plenty of times where I would go like 3 or 4 days without being able to work on it. So I think it's probably different for everybody.
And can I interrupt just 1 second? Hold on, wait, everybody, hold on. I got 2 things to say. One, part-time cohort students get 2 weeks to do this project. Full-time cohort students get 1 week to do the project, and self-paced students can do it however long it takes them. Just before we get on to more questions, we have a presenter who wants to show you the video that you do accompanying a project, and he needs to jump off soon for a project review, so with his cohort lead. So if we could let Stephen go and do his bit, and then we can follow through with questions following his presentation.
Thanks, Ann. Hey, everybody. I'm actually in the same cohort as Lana, so we completed this around the same time. I'm going to show you my video that I submitted because we have to create a video for an explanation of our CLI gem. And then I'll explain after I run it. It's only about 2 minutes why I'm showing the video. But let me jump over here. And can you just give me a thumbs up if you can hear it? I'm going to play it now.
Hi, everyone. My name is Steve Wright, and this is my first gem called Headlines Today. Headlines Today is meant to pull from the Reuters news website, which is one of my favorites. And once I open it, it pulls up the top 10 stories for the current day or even current moment. And it will list the headline for each, and it will list the source URL if you want to click and go to the website directly. You'll notice here that the stories are listed numerically. So here at the prompt at the bottom, I can click on a number to view a certain story. So if I type 7, it will pull up that story there. Or I could type a different number and, of course, pull up a different story too. Of course, I can read over the story. I can also click list to see the list of stories again. And if I do cause an error, if I type let's say a number greater than the stories there are, so like 13, it will tell me that the number is not given in the list. Or if the user just accidentally types something wrong, it will pull up the prompt again. Finally, if they want to exit the program, they can simply type exit, and it will say come back tomorrow for more headlines. So that is my first gem. Very proud of it.
Okay. So I will pause there, but why I'm showing you the video, and for those people earlier on in your learning with Flatiron, again, if you're not onto classes or anything yet, no big deal. You'll learn it. I'm sure Lana would agree with this, but I created this, or we created our CLI gems only, I think 5 weeks ago, and it seems like forever ago. We've learned a ton since. You'll be amazed at how much you learn in a short period of time. The reason I am showing you my video as opposed to the gem is because there are certain things like news websites that are scraped a lot. Again, scraping meaning you are taking content from a website and you are using it for your own application, as I am here for headlines and stories from a website. So since there are a lot of news aggregators, a lot of scraping happens to news websites, whether it's CNN or NPR or Reuters that I used. So they change their formatting a lot because they don't want to be, of course, scraped from. They want people to come to their own website. So if I showed you my gem now, it would still work functionally just fine. But some of the articles will not come up as easily to read. It will repeat certain articles, and that's because they're changing their HTML a lot to stop people from scraping. So it's worth a challenge if you want to scrape it, if you want to use a news website when you get to this, or if you're working on it. But definitely a bit of a challenge for news websites. I do have a few minutes if anybody has any questions, though.
And I'll just jump in before questions to say that there is guidance when you get to this project about how to identify a good scrapable site. So there you will get some help on trying to figure out if there's, ones that will block you or ones that are going to be better or worse.
Got a question.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks very much for presenting, by the way. My question is, you mentioned that the information is dynamic, it changes, they change the information, what have you, but if they change their code within their website, will it also break your program? Because I noticed like you guys use some HTML in the CLI program. I don't know if I'm using the right terminology. So if the website basically makes changes to their HTML or CSS code or what have you, will your CLI still work?
Potentially. So it could break it. Let me jump actually over to mine. So for example, to give you a quick and easy idea, on my scraper, my terminal, but on my scraper here, if this, like, here's what I'm scraping. I'm going to the Reuters website, and as Lana mentioned, I'm scraping from that element right there. That is the element exactly that I am scraping a headline from. So if they were to change what those elements say, actually, and they were to change it enough that it would just throw gibberish or throw an error when I run my gem, yes, it could absolutely potentially break it.
I'll actually comment on that too. When we were asked to do this, I ran through my CLI, and it was broken because they changed about half of the format. It wasn't that big of a deal that I couldn't fix it, but they started adding some tables in instead of, they tweaked it a little bit so that I had to add a few if statements, but it does change.
Thanks for that. Just a follow-up question then, if you don't mind. Then what's the point of creating a program like this if it requires constant maintenance or checks, in a real world use scenario?
That's a great question. Well, really, if you look at most websites, like any company that has to draw material, because, for example, think of any website that uses Google Maps. Google Maps updates and does different things. these are constant updates. Software engineering, like whether it's learning Ruby on Rails or whatever it is, gems, whatever they are, or scraping itself, there are updates all the time. I was dealing with this, as I'm sure Lana is too, with some of our learn reading and lessons for this week. And there's a recent update to Ruby on Rails. So it kind of messes with some of the lessons, and you have to update your terminal and your local environment. So the answer is because that's kind of life as a software engineer. You have to update things. It just kind of goes that way. But there are always fixes. There are always ways around it. And it's a very helpful community that you can usually find an answer in Google for it.
Thanks.
And I could step in a little bit on that. On this prompt, they actually kind of stressed that the scraping or an API call was not the main focus of the exercise. It was mostly about object orientation. And scraping is kind of a classic thing that used to be done more often when websites were more static. Now most people are calling APIs, but it's kind of to give historical context, but then also give us a source of information as well for our program.
Thank you for saying that part about the APIs. So the scraping is synonymous with an API, is that correct?
No.
Okay.
So scraping is like making a program that browses the internet just like you would, and then takes the code out of the page and then tries to make sense of it. Whereas an API is actually like a formal place that your program is meant to go and pull information from. So it's two ways of pulling information, but just a different style. Like
Okay.
scraping is kind of like a way that used to be done more often. And when there's not necessarily kind of authorized access, you're just basically kind of gathering what your browser would get, basically.
Cool. And I actually have one more question. Hi, I'm Ariel. I am based in Baltimore, Maryland, and I have been having some troubles with Active Record, just like understanding it. Do you guys know of any resources you can point me to that would help me better understand that outside of Learn?
Can we take that question into maybe a Slack channel? The focus of this study group is on Ruby and this project. So we have a lot of people to present. So I will let those people maybe in the chat answer that question. But I'd like to keep working on proceeding on having people present this project, which is relevant to the first section of the curriculum. Mitchell, are you available to start your presentation?
I am.
Okay. Take it away.
All right. All right, so my name is Mitch. I decided to, actually, let me share my whole thing with you guys so I can show you the website that I was going to that I scraped as well. Okay, can everybody see my, this looks weird on my end.
I have a terminal and a flashing. Oh, there we go.
Is that it? Okay. Sorry, I disconnected
Yep.
from my monitor because my webcam is weird. But so I decided to scrape. I'm from Colorado. We've got a music venue out here called Red Rocks. So I decided to scrape the Red Rocks website for concerts. So pretty much this one page that lists all the concerts for the year. When I first started working on this 5 or 6 weeks ago, there weren't this many listed, but it still works, pretty sure. Let me resize this. Okay, so when you first go into it, you're brought up to this welcome page. And to see a current list of concerts, you just type list, or you could type exit to exit. So like I said, once when I first started working on it, there weren't 132 concerts. But now there are, and there's going to be more every day. But so you find a show that you would like to go to, you want more information on. So let's see, what's a good one? Nathaniel Rateliff. And the doubles on here are for multiple night concerts. Like 101 and 102 will be like a Wednesday or a Thursday. So we can type in 101. And then that'll print out the headliner, the opener, the date of the show, time of doors, and then it'll give you a link to the Access website so you can buy tickets. And then you can keep doing that for whatever show you want to go to. If you type in something that's not correct, it'll just tell you to try again. And then once you are done, you just type exit, and then that'll clear out your terminal for you. Because I'm OCD and I don't like to have a bunch of stuff in mine. That's pretty much it. Mine was pretty plain and simple. Just wanted to make sure I had something that worked and that met the requirements of the program, or the just meet the requirements and pass it. So, any questions?
Hey, Mitchell.
Hey.
Hey, I've got a question. Thanks for presenting. That looks like very useful if you're into geeks and all that. So yeah, I was wondering, how many weeks have you been studying in order to reach to this level of coding?
Well, I'm in the full-time program, so I think it was week 4 of the full-time program. So that was like working every day for 3 weeks to get to this point. And then we got that 4th week off just to work on this project.
Okay.
Yeah, just
good to know.
To put this in perspective, if you're in the full-time cohort, as Mitch said, it comes after about a month, sort of at the end of month 1. If you're in a part-time cohort, that will correlate to about the end of month 2, or, about 7 weeks into your curriculum. And obviously, if you're self-paced, it's when you get there, but it's at the end of the object orientation Ruby section. So you'll have done procedural Ruby, and you'll have done object-oriented Ruby when you get to this project.
Great. Can I ask another question, if I may, please?
Sure.
How much control do you actually have over the how the content is displayed? And is there really a need to even have control to display? Does it matter how the content is displayed?
You just have
for understanding purposes.
If I understand your question right, you do have to be able to go 1 level deep is a requirement of the project. So you have to be able to, a user has to see data, and then you have to take their input and then serve them relevant data.
Yeah, I guess what I'm asking is, so when your program scrapes a website and extracts the information, is it your CLI that structures how the information is displayed in your program, or is that dictated by the site?
Oh, no, that's completely you. You have complete control over how you list the data. Once you scrape the website and you create objects, you can then display those objects however you want. The scraping is just taking the data from the website and storing it in your program so that you can then manipulate it however you wish.
And are you using the elements to basically use it as a call in your CLI program to basically, if there's an element on the website that you scraped and you want it to appear in a certain area in your CLI, are you using the element from the website, or are you using some code?
Yeah, essentially. So I don't want to get too deep in the woods with it, but yeah, you're listing those objects that you've created, and then the user is essentially selecting a specific object and you're returning information regarding that object. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So for each of those concerts, I created a concert object, and then a user can view that object individually, or they can view a list of objects.
Got it. Thanks.
Great. Kayla, are you ready to share your project?
Yep, I can go.
Great. Take it away.
All right. So mine is very basic compared to the other two that you've seen. And I'll share the website first. Can you guys see my screen? Oh, let me go back to the beginning here. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Yes, we can.
Okay, hold on. I'm like in one of the things here. I want to get to the main page. So I am a lover of coffee. So I found this Taste of Home website that did copycat coffee shop drinks. So there's a list of coffee drinks here. And as you can see here, there's 22 total drinks, and it just kind of goes down the list. And there's like a get recipe thing. So my program scrapes that main page so that you can get to here, and then it will show you the ingredients and the directions on how to make that specific drink. So I will share my, and I'm going to show you through Learn, the IDE, so you can kind of see it. Oh shoot, I have to stop here. So this is kind of, and I'll move this up here. To run my program, just start here. And it just says like, welcome fellow coffee lovers. Below is a list of fancy coffee drinks you can make in the comfort of your own kitchen. And it lists the drinks. Then to see the recipe for a drink, you just put in a number. So I'll just put 7. Oh my goodness, it's taking forever. Well, usually this works. There we go. Sorry about that. And it just shows the ingredients at the top and then the directions on how to make it. So you can type a new drink number to view another coffee drink or done at any time. So if I hit 15, it should show the next one. And I apologize, I'm not sure why it's taking so long to run. Okay, and that did not work. Well, this worked in the beginning right before we started, so I'm not sure why it's not going right now and why it's taking forever. There we go. So there's another one. So it has the ingredients again, and then the directions, and then you can hit oops, done at any time to leave, and then it'll take you out of there. So mine's fairly simple. I didn't add any of, I think the question you asked last time, like the special effects of how it's like the colors and all that. I didn't add that in there, and I didn't even know that you could do that. So yeah, mine's pretty simple. Any questions?
Sorry, I feel like I'm hogging all the time here, but I have a lot of questions. But one of my questions for all of you, really, I mean, leading up to this, what would you have done different in preparation for this project, and while you were in the midst of it, actually developing it? What are some things you can advise that you can give us, like troubles that you guys have run into that was unforeseen, that might be common issues or challenges that you guys experienced while developing this program?
I think you started in the right spot by coming to this study group, because I did not come to very many study groups. I'm in the self-paced program, so I work full time and I have a family at home. So I'm like, when they say they did this week 4 into the program or week 7 into the program, I started in the beginning of September, and I didn't start my project until the beginning of December. So, I mean, it was a good 2-3 months before I even started this program. And a lot of the study groups, the timing for them are kind of off for me, so I didn't get to attend those. But attending the study groups and seeing other people do the projects and share, and I saw in the chat someone did Jen's Scraper Checker, any of her recorded study groups that you can watch and how she builds the CLI projects are going to be like A++ for you to learn how to do something like this on your own.
Thank you.
I'll agree with that, Jen. I ended up watching some of hers as well, and they were really awesome for just explaining how to go through them. I think she has like a 6-part series or something like that. It was super helpful.
I'm sorry, can you guys repeat the name again of the videos?
It's in the chat.
Thank you.
It's Jen Hansen. The link is in the chat. Justin, are you available to show us yours?
Yep, I am. Let's see. Can everybody see that? The prompt there. So I am a ex-EMT, and I'm in Seattle actually. And we have a public website in Seattle that shows 911 call data. And one thing that always kind of goes around, people just kind of pontificate over whether like the full moon has an effect on call volume or weather or whatever. So I just kind of wanted to answer that question. So I basically made an app that scrapes two APIs. So it calls two APIs. I called it Lunid. My website or my internet connection is a little slow. So it kind of gives you a prompt here, and basically it gives you an option to enter a year, month, day, or an hour of the day. You can do kind of the whole thing, or you can kind of travel in. So it's actually a full moon right now here. So I'm going to start in 2019. Let's go March. So right now it's calling an API, and this little calendar here is basically showing you kind of a deeper red for higher call volume, and less red for less call volume. And then those asterisks are days that haven't happened yet here in March. So if I can go to the 19th here, that gives you the day, and it kind of shows a little readout of the weather, the number of calls. And if you want to see a given hour, let's go 6 o'clock in the morning. And that was the calls for that day, their location. You can kind of navigate around by, like, if I just continue to kind of give hours, that'll work like that. Or just like Unix, it can go 2 periods and come back out. And constantly your prompt is showing you where you're at. Basically, you can kind of flow around. There you go. I was trying to give a month that didn't exist yet. So whenever you put in bad data, it's just gonna kind of do that to you, keep looking at you until you figure something new out. Just like that. And then when you want to quit, just hit the Q and then bounce out. That was mine. Any questions?
Sorry, Justin.
Yeah.
Sorry, quick question. Did you say that you made calls to an API in order to build this project as well?
Yeah, I called 2 APIs. So the City of Seattle, they publish their 911 data. So they have a website. Can you see this website? I just switched screens. I don't know if I'm sharing correctly. There's like a table.
Yeah, we can see the project, not the website.
Yeah. Let's see here. Basically, I called two websites, or 2 APIs. One was a. Now, can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the actual like website that they publish, but the way I wanted to structure it, I would have had to have called this website a bunch of times, and I didn't want to do that like instantaneously and kind of cause an incident. So they also publish to an API. There's this organization called Socrata that actually publishes a lot of public data to APIs. And so I use that. And then originally I wanted to scrape from like the Farmer's Almanac for weather data, like, and actually scrape the data off a website, but there was some funkiness to it, so I couldn't do that. So I just went ahead and used what's called Dark Sky. It's a free API, and they've got pretty good instructions on how to manipulate their data. Both Socrata and Dark Sky were pretty easy to deal with once I kind of got around it.
Okay, so the same principles to scraping a website can be applicable to scraping an API?
Yeah, basically it's just, it's kind of like a different interface to the data, but then basically after you've done that, my program is just like all the other programs before. So it's once you get the data, it's how you manipulate that. That's the kind of focus of the, putting it into objects and classes like they're saying.
All right, very, very interesting. Thank you.
And no worries.
2 quick questions, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
The graphics you used in your program, was that something you, like a graphic that you uploaded and then linked to in your program, or is it that built in? And the second question is for all of you, really, I mean, is there like a level of etiquette you have to use when scraping websites? I mean, is it frowned upon? Is it like, does it cause trouble on the other end for the website owner? Is there anything that we should consider when selecting to scrape a website?
Yeah, so the graphics are actually, they're ANSI, ANSI codes. So basically it's like kind of a universal language. So basically like when you're texting and you send emojis, a lot of that's ANSI or Unicode. And so you basically kind of type a code in. Let's see if I can find it. It basically looks like, looks like this. So there's these kind of, if you Google ANSI or Unicode emojis or emoticons, you'll find a lot of information out there. And the terminal, our terminals know to respond to those codes, just as if there's like an escape value, which is that, \, and you can look at, there's websites dedicated to telling you which codes apply to what pictures. And so there's ones for moons and rabbits and all sorts of whatever you can dream of. There's a lot of cool stuff out there. So you can play a lot of games with that. And then as far as etiquette, yeah, some websites frown upon it. Basically, if you're hitting a website a bunch, like in seconds, they're gonna know you're a bot, and they're gonna try and, depending on how they behave, how that website works, or how they pay for their their web space, that they might shut you down. The APIs that I hit, you actually have to, you can get a free token, basically API token, to access it, and so they're tracking, and there's kind of terms of use to like how many times you can hit it before they kind of get upset, and they're pretty explicit about it.
Thanks for that.
Hi, Justin.
Questions before?
I had one quick question for Justin. I noticed you had some graphics in the program as it was running. Did you have to do something special to have the little pictures?
Yeah, that was the last gentleman that asked. That's that ANSI kind of coding. So on my screen, you can see. You guys can see code, right? So like my cursor right here. So this is the function that basically sets the moons, that shows the moons. And so I basically created a hash, and the lunar phase is like a percentage of full. So I created a hash, so when it would return, like if here's 0%, here's an 8, quarter, and it's going to return this phrase right here, this U bracket 1F3111. That's the ANSI code for a little sliver of a moon. So your terminal knows to respond to that if you just inject it into the string. You just use string parsing, just like you'll learn in procedural Ruby. It's a matter of kind of looking up the website. I can see if I can find it when I stop talking. But basically, if you look up Unicode or ANSI emoticon codes, you'll find some information on it to figure it out. And I just kind of sussed through it basically and figured it out.
Thank you. It makes more sense.
Yeah.
Hey, Justin, I got a question. I'm not familiar with APIs, but is this each time you're running that program, is it going out and pulling in new data, or is it like static data that you've stored somewhere?
So it's pulling. It pulls when you go into a month. It hits one of the APIs and grabs 911 data, and then when you go into a day, it's pulling. And so basically, whenever you enter in a month, it goes and grabs all the 911 data for the month. That was kind of how it was best structured in the API. And then when you go into a day, that's when it grabs the weather data. So that was the best way that API returned weather data for me. So I chose to kind of store that for the day. So I'm kind of storing at the month level for 911 and then day level for weather.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah,
Jennifer.
a quick one.
Yep.
Okay. No, and this was all built using Ruby, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pure Ruby, yeah.
Yeah.
Vanilla Ruby.
Right.
There's a little bit of, for date, I had to grab, there's this a gem called, it's escaping me right now, but it's for manipulating time zones, but it's all Ruby. It's kind of a subset of Rails that I had to run into, but 99% Ruby, yeah.
Great. So Jennifer, are you ready to go?
Yeah, I am ready. Share my screen.
So yeah, we need to unshare Justin and then we'll share Jennifer. Great.
All right. Hi, I'm Jay. I'm in the self-paced program. I'm in Minnesota. And I built a fairly simple CLI program that scrapes 4 different websites to pull down different workouts. So I'll just run through it real quick so that you can see what it looks like. So it welcomes you, and as it does that, it's actually doing the scraping of the different websites and loads those. And then it gives you a list with the titles of each of the workouts that you can choose from. You can select one of the numbers if you want to get more information about that workout. So we'll do number 5. So then it gives you the title and then what you're supposed to do for that workout, and then the source where you can go to that website and see the workout. And then cycles through like a lot of the other CLIs have done. So we can look at another workout by clicking yes. We can pull up the list of the titles again if we want to see those. So could do a weighted workout. And then once you're done, oh, and I should say, just like everybody else has done, you know, if you put in an invalid prompt, then it'll give you an error message and then repeat the previous prompt so that you know what type of prompts it's looking for. So then to exit out, just click or type in N or exit if you're in a different menu. I wish that I had done the previous presenter's trick of clearing the console because I really like that. But yeah, that's my CLI. It's a little bit more simple, I think, than some of the others, but just pulling different information from different websites and then running the people through how to get more information about each of those workouts.
Great. So now we've got a few minutes. We've got about 5 more minutes. So any questions from the group for any of our presenters?
question. Can you guys hear me?
Just speak up a little bit. It's a little quiet.
Can you hear me? Is it okay? Can you hear?
Yes, go ahead.
My question was, where did you guys come up with the inspiration? There's so many different topics. There's a huge range. Is it like in the instructions on what you're supposed to pick for your websites to start scraping, or topics? Because we went from like Harry Potter to coffee to workouts. You know, what was, or are you just allowed to just pick whatever you like?
Yeah, we were allowed to choose anything. I think for me, I'm a lawyer, so I initially tried to scrape a website that has local city ordinances, but that website is loaded with JavaScript. So I played around with a couple of other gems that would let me try to scrape that website through a different protocol, and was unsuccessful, and decided that rather than like spinning my wheels for hours, I would just move on to something simpler. And I had just gotten back from the gym, so I was like, I'll do a workout of the day workout, or CLI. But that was really hard for me, actually, was trying to figure out the topic and which website to do.
Yeah, I would second that. I started building a program like Jay's, and it was like a workout type program. And the website that I was using ClassPass, and there was JavaScript in there, and it just wasn't working out. So I ended up just looking at websites and stuff that interested me, and then doing the inspect element and seeing if there was a lot of JavaScript in there, and then building my project based on that.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, and I had somebody had asked about whether like websites have rules about when you can scrape them, and I think for most websites, if you do kind of the main domain and then robots.txt, it'll like tell you whether or not it's cool to scrape that website. So I looked at a couple of sites where it was like, no, you can't scrape me. So I decided to steer clear of those.
Sorry, do you attach that to the top level domain? So after the .com, just /robot.txt?
Yeah, robots, I think, .txt. So no E.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
I know that mine was a weird one, but a lot of people in our class just kind of looked at what they do on their daily life too. Like Steven said that he looks at that website every day. So, I mean, it was just making his life easier instead of having to go through their stuff. Some people did recipes and all sorts of things because they like to cook. It's whatever would be useful for you.
Yeah, I think, picking something that you like is going to get you through the dark days, right? So you better love the topic, because you're going to spend a lot of time noodling with it, and it'll help you figure out what are the pieces of information that a user like you might find interesting. So yeah, think about your hobbies or where you go on the internet frequently, and that's a great place to start. Before we go, first of all, I want to thank our presenters so much for sharing their projects and sharing their wisdom with the group. But I want to do a shout out to Beth Schofield. Beth is one of our tech coaches who's on a call with us, and she is the project support person for CLI. She does one-on-one project support for self-paced students when they get to their projects. So feel free to Slack message her on the way to your CLI project. Her Slack is at Ginger Tonic on Slack, and so you will have her as your support person if you're in the self-paced program. Our cohort people know who they go to for support, so I won't need to mention that. But we've got just about a minute left, so if anybody has one last-minute question for our team, throw it out there.
I just have a question to Kayla and Kayla, I think so. It's regarding I heard that she is self-paced. Just want to know, how did she manage the time? Because this is irrelevant to this material, but I just want to know the self-pacing thing, how it works out. Because now another candidate also is doing a self-paced thing, and how they achieved it, having a challenging career. Apart from this, yeah, but how do they manage the time, and how long we have to study, those kind of things? Can you give me your 2 cents, please?
Yeah, so I can start. I am in the self-paced program, and I actually started this back in September. Like I said, I work full-time. I have a family at home. My husband's a full-time student. So I would say I spend 20 hours or less on this a week. So sometime at night, and then on the weekends, I'll go to coffee shops for 4 or 5 hours a day. But I think it's probably a little more difficult to do the self-paced one because like I said, I don't really get a chance to join a lot of the study groups because they're at times that are just they're not, like my family, during times with my family or dinner or things like that. So I just have been, there's a part-time schedule that you get, and I kind of tried to follow that at first, and it'll show you like week 1, you should kind of be through this. Week 2, you should kind of be through this. And it ends up being like a 42-week program if you follow that. And I'm even behind on that right now too. But sometimes I kind of have to tell myself too that since I'm like paying for it monthly and I'm doing it self-paced, I can't, like, my focus and my mind wants to tell me, like, just get through everything, because you're not going to finish the program unless you keep going. But, a word of advice from me doing this now for 5 months or so is, like, really make sure you're learning what you're doing and you understand. And that'll help you, I think, a lot as you continue on and when you get to the project and that kind of thing. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. I could see the struggles which you've gone through by your The thing is, but now you first enroll into your part-time program, then you just switch over to your self-paced program. Is it right? Yeah, or else?
No. Sorry, I've been in the self-paced program the whole time, but there is a part-time schedule, so you can look at a sheet, and I got it from my I can't remember what it's called. Educational learning coach.
Educational coach. Yeah, shout out to educational coaching. So yeah, for people in our self-paced program, your educational coach is your go-to person for helping with, pacing and scheduling and balancing it with your life.
Exactly.
So she's referring to a document that got shared with her through her educational coach, which gives self-paced students a schedule based on how many hours they have.
And that's a good point. Sorry, Anna. I should have mentioned the educational coach. I meet with her like once a month, and she has it's like an Excel sheet that she can put in where I'm at in the program and how many hours I'm spending a week on it, and it'll kind of tell like the anticipated graduation rate. So we kind of check in with that every time I meet with her too.
Okay.
So I hate to cut everybody off, but we are at the hour. So I want to let our presenters go and say thank you very much to everybody. This was recorded, so I will I'll figure out where we're going to post this link, and it'll be available if any of you want to go back and take a look at this stuff. But thank you all for joining. I appreciate your help, and I hope this was useful to some of our newer students.
Thank you, guys.